Good morning, YouTube. So, well, I guess it could be any time of the day for you, but it's 11 a.m. right now, so just working on the cars a little bit. Today's going to be a Lock City drift prep. So it is Friday the, I don't know the date, but it's a week before Lock City drift. So I got a week to prep this thing. The only thing that I really have to like focus on is currently the starter's a little loose, so it's making a horrendous noise at cold start, or well, starting obviously. And then other things are, I got to work on dialing in the front a little bit more because it's not awful, but you might be able to see in the back there the paint is rubbing off the wheel well. That is because with the angle blocks and it's 30% lock, they don't quite clear at full lock, so it's rubbing the paint. What's nice is it doesn't seem like it's like detrimental to the tire, so I don't think I'm gonna get any flats from hitting full lock. I'll bring extras just in case. Should be all right there. Definitely gonna mess with it. I need a brake pad on this side because I don't know if you saw the last video of Lock City drift prep, but right before the event the caliper decided to seize up, which absolutely cooked that brake pad. So this side, wheel's nice and clean, other side brake pad is destroyed, so hit the brakes a few times and it's pretty much gone. On the interior, have a few things to clean up. Hopefully gonna put the kick panel back in. Switch fell down, so I'm probably gonna end up just zip tying that to that little metal bar that comes down. And then a big thing I gotta focus on is battery tie down. So last event I failed tech one of the times because of that, and that's what ended up leading to the cranking no start while I was in tech. So that's why I failed and wasn't able to drive last event. So gonna definitely focus on getting a secure battery tie down. I'm gonna look and see. I might have an OEM one kicking around somewhere from the silver car, because that car's been off the road for a minute, so I probably put it in my toolbox. So I'm gonna look around, see if I can find an OEM one, throw it in for the event. If not, I have a few friends that part out e36s all the time, so I'll hit them up too. But gonna get to work and show you some progress. All right, so this might be a little hard to show, but right down, oh man, it's gonna be pretty much impossible, but down in that general vicinity are where the starter bolts are located. You can see the top one, but since I did the solid motor and trans mounts and solid everything else, the car shakes a ton. So what ended up happening was the starter shook loose, so when I went to start the car, it made an awful grinding noise. It's just a loose starter. I don't even think I took a video of that, but I'm not going to do it again because I'm not going to destroy my flywheel just to show a sound. But what I'm going to do to try and solve that is a little orange Loctite here. So this is in between blue and red. It requires a 3/8 drive to remove, it says. It's pretty much what I used throughout the whole subframe, and it seems to work pretty well. So gonna throw a little drip on the starter bolts and hope that it stays in for a while. Each time I tighten it, it seems to stay in for like 3-4 months, but hopefully when I put this on, it'll stay in for much longer than that. So we'll see what happens, but I'm gonna get to work on this. I'm not really sure how much I can video since it is all tucked down there, but this is one of the prep things for Lock City. Next, I'm probably gonna get to the battery tie down.
What happened, Bummer? He's finally actually making love to the car.
Alright, so the starter is nice and tight. Next thing I'm probably gonna get to is battery tie down, and then after that we're gonna focus on the front. Probably just gonna end up throwing a bigger spacer on. I have some 30mm spacers laying around somewhere, and I believe these are 15, so that would poke it out an extra 15mm. It's gonna look kind of heinous with stock fenders, but maybe take a baseball bat to them again, make them a little wider. The only problem is that since I just painted it, I don't want to like mess the paint up immediately, so might just raise up the front a little bit. We'll see what happens. Right, so today we're back at it with some Lock City drift prep. Just whipping up a battery tie down real quick, spraying it with some rubberized coating. Dad's got the 442 out, and pretty much just doing some stuff to get this thing prepped, ready to drift. But most things are done. It's pretty much this, and then double check the starter, and then bolt check everything, make sure nothing's loose and the front end's all good to go. There should be good. The only reason I'm not using the OEM battery tie down is because I'm kind of an idiot and got a battery that's too tall for that. So using the generic die-hard kit, drilling a couple little holes, see one right there with a nice little ring around it from where the drill bit walked. But did 2 of those, got the other one sticking through, and once that thing's done drying, drilled 2 holes in it, and then we'll have a rubberized battery mount. So should make it so it can't shock it. I'm probably going to throw some caps over the positive and negative anyway, just to play it safe, but definitely a better design than what I had the last time with that huge plate that pretty much covered the whole battery, and was definitely a risk if the battery slid around to cause a fire or a big spark. So while I'm waiting for the paint to dry, the piece of metal's hanging on a coat hanger off of a tree. Decided to double check the starter bolts. As you know, starter bolts on the 318s, well, any e36 in general, they're a pain in the butt, but 318s, they're located right in the back. Well, they're all located right in the back, but there's enough room for me to actually stand in the engine bay and reach over, which is pretty ideal because as you're going to see in the clip earlier in this video, I was laying on the car the other day and it was super uncomfortable, but figured this out today. So just making sure these are nice and tight. The bottom one was the teeniest bit loose, but I'm wondering if I just didn't tighten it all the way because it was at such a bad angle. My hand was cramping up that day, and might have just left it like that. So this is almost back together, and or well, not back together, but fully wrapped up. And then once I screw that battery tie down in the trunk, probably gonna go for a quick little test drive, and Lock City drift prep should be pretty much good. Probably tomorrow I'm gonna end up putting the car up in the air and just double checking all the different bushings and whatnot, making sure all the rear end stuff stayed tight after the few different shakedown tests. And then so pretty much the last thing I'm doing today for Lock City drift prep is I'm trying to figure out why my temp gauge stopped working. So it may be the gauge itself, but I decided to quick run through all the wires and make sure that there's no points where it could just be bad contact. So this one had one of those super sketchy, I don't even know where it went, I think it might have fallen on the ground, one of those like clear blue AutoZone crimps that always go bad. So I threw a nice crimp in there and then heat shrunk it. And next, so I might do that to this one as well, but I don't think this one would be a reason for it not to be working. This would just be the temp signal not working. And currently the gauge isn't turning on. So I am also going to check. So when I click 2, that's when the gauge should come on, but as you can see, it's not. The last ones that I have to do are these few, which are definitely a possibility because this one's ground, and I believe maybe they're both ground. I think power, yeah, powers should be good. I redid the crimps at one point, and yeah, I only did those 2, but I might do these other 3 and see if that is causing it not to turn on. But it may be the physical gauge itself, because it did stop working when I put it in this gauge pod, so I'm wondering if I just kind of like smashed it in there and messed it up. All right, so it's the next day. Doesn't really pertain to the video, but my hat and shirt have changed, so I figured I'd mention it. Pretty much just dialing this thing the rest of the way in. So yesterday it was the beginning of part 1. I said I had a little piece of metal over here that I was painting up and making a battery tie down. I didn't go super in depth on how to make the tie down because it's definitely like a $7 battery tie down setup. Pretty much anybody with a drill could do it. But other than that, this car is looking pretty good for Lock City. I went through pretty much everything wiring related to the gauge. I believe it's the physical gauge. So M42 is nice and happy like usual. Idle's pretty much perfect now. It does start a little funky sometimes, so it takes a few cranks, but once it's warm, it's good to go. So I don't really know why it's doing that, other than, well, I know exactly why. It's the ECU pins are still like not perfect. I'm probably gonna end up repinning it at some point, but I threw some dielectric grease in there and bent the pins back to normal, so it's not the end of the world. It's a little bit of a pain. As you can see here, It's literally just a piece of sheet metal that I sprayed with that rubberized coating stuff, and then I wrapped it in duct tape just to be on the safe side of not having any points where the metal could slide up and hit the positive and negative post, even though battery strap is here, so it should never go past that, but just as a fail-safe, it's double wrapped, so should never cause an issue. And now that that's fully buttoned up, I'm probably gonna jack the front up, just double check everything, do a quick, shake test, make sure nothing's loose or clunking. And then the only other thing that I have to get done before Lock City is replacing this brake pad, because as you can see from that amount of brake dust, it's going. So I'm either gonna get a new pad, or just for time and cheapness, might steal the pad off this car, because I do plan on upgrading these pads as soon as it's on the road, because that's going to make way too much power for stock pads. So might end up throwing them on this car, but I always feel bad taking parts off this car, even though I know I'm not going to use them once it's done. It just hurts to disassemble it while it's not running, so we'll see what we do about that. I also found another set of brake pads that are off an e36 in my toolbox that have some pad left on them, and then there's another set of random brake pads in the shed. So gonna double check everything, and I actually did do brakes on this car at one point, so I might have the stock pads around somewhere. I'm gonna keep searching around, see if I can dig anything up. I jacked up the front end, no shakes or anything, so what I'm gonna do now is take this wheel off. I cleaned it up already, but I'm gonna see why that caliper's getting eaten, make sure that it's, or brake pad's getting eaten, make sure it's not the caliper sticking again, because I already had that issue once on this side, and this is a brand new caliper, so I'd be bummed if it happened again. I'm thinking maybe it just needs some grease on the slides, but I think I have a spare pad lying around somewhere, so I'm probably gonna swap it. Caliper's all back together. Realized that I'm an idiot, and I actually had the pad on backwards from when I reassembled the caliper the morning before the drift event. I was in full ADD mode that morning, just doing everything at once, so I'm not really surprised that I forgot something. Kind of surprised that I did something that stupid, that big, and didn't notice it. But I only drove the car I don't know, maybe 10 times since, and I've noticed every time that the front brakes have felt pretty funky. So that explains that. So now that that's fixed and everything else is buttoned up, this is probably going to be a finishing point for Lock City Prep Part 1. Not really sure if there's going to be a part 2, since the car is pretty much good to go, but I might be making a video midweek with this, just kind of going through things. I might add a skid plate. I also have to throw a few more self-tappers in the skirts, because when I bottomed out a few weeks ago in a parking lot, one of them popped out of the front there. So a couple things left to do on it, nothing major, but stoked that I got it all, for the most part, prepped, things starting reliably. And the only other thing, other than those couple things that I mentioned, is potentially raise the front a bit, because when I was trying to test it in Mexico, when I was doing second and third gear, if there was any sort of incline or decline, it seemed like the tires were rubbing a bit. So either gonna do that or cut the fenders, we'll see. The only reason I'm hesitant to cut the fenders is because I just painted them, so it'd be a real shame to mess up the paint, but at the same time, I could probably take a grinding wheel to the end, make it nice and smooth, and you wouldn't even really notice. So haven't really decided what I'm doing with that, but as always, thank you guys for tuning in for another video. Make sure to throw a like, subscribe, comment, anything you want. Sure, there's going to be more videos coming in the near future within the next couple days, so stay watching, and I'll stay editing. I'll see you in the next one.
Times with the bros and the shit, and we roll with the cars, and it goes like, I don't wanna be lonely tonight. Don't wanna be lonely tonight. Don't wanna be lonely, so I spend some time with my homies. I don't wanna be lonely tonight. Don't wanna be lonely tonight. Don't wanna be lonely, so I go and spend some time with my motherfucking homies.